in these are things which are called environmental injustices. And as a kid, I was like, these are things that I don't necessarily like, but something that overtook that in my mind was also social injustices. And these are things that are talked about more prevalently, right? Racism, classism, and all the different things that we experience as Black and brown people in Clayton County. But what's important about what we're bringing you today is that those two things are connected. You cannot separate the people from the planet that they live on. You cannot separate yourself from the environment that you grew up in. And these are very important things to think about, because as you grow up, sustainability and environmentalism are going to be part of your everyday lives. So I actually ended up making a school career and now a professional career out of investing in something called climate justice. And that's what you are going to be learning about today. So Captain Planet Foundation is an organization that helps empower young people to be effective change makers for the planet. And that's what you are going to be doing in this Green Heart Challenge. We're going to be focusing on 2 out of the 5 elements that come from the original Captain Planet and the Planeteers cartoon. So all y'all are about closer to my age than to people who are watching that cartoon's age. However, it's still very relevant to what you all are going to be doing. So Captain Planet and the Planeteers was a cartoon about 5 young people who came from 5 different continents, and each of them controlled a different element. You had earth, wind, fire, water, and heart. And these 5 elements came together, and when the 5 young people were working together, they would summon the powers of Captain Planet. Captain Planet is really the metaphor for what collaborative action looks like of young people. Right now, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, a lot of us are doing the work that the people who are in power and the people who are in control are not doing. And that's why your voice matters. That's why we're bringing this challenge to y'all rather than to people who are in power, because we're the ones who are making a difference. We're the ones who are experiencing this every day. So that's why it matters for us. This rendition of the Green Heart Challenge is going to be focusing on 2 of those 5 elements: earth and fire. Earth is all about food and soil, clean water, making sure that our food systems are fair and equitable and just. And fire is all about clean energy. So we're moving over from those old diesel and gas cars to all of our nice little Teslas, making sure we're investing in clean and renewable energies, things of that nature. So today you're going to hear about each of those elements in different aspects. You're going to be hearing about people's personal journeys. You're going to be learning a little bit more about climate change and greenhouse gas effect and the different things that contribute to this. And then what you're going to do is have the time to think about, how have I observed these things in my community? How have I observed these things around Clayton County, in my school district, and different things of that nature? What you're going to do is take the things that you learned today back to your classrooms, back to everyone else who's contributing to the Green Heart Challenge, making sure that the messages are clear, and then working together to problem solve for the issues that you identify. So we are going to get this day started. The first thing that you're going to hear about is from the person who just brought you this game. Sophie's going to talk to you about how the city of Atlanta and the Atlanta Hawks are integrating sustainability into the things that they do every day. And then we're going to get started in talking about those different elements and the different pillars underneath them. And you guys are going to learn even more about climate justice and things of that nature. Are y'all ready? You don't really sound ready. Are y'all ready to be problem solvers for the planet? Yes! Sophie, take it away, please.
Awesome. Thank you very much. While we get the deck up, one thing she noted as was how you're going to learn about the things that we are doing at State Farm Arena and the Atlanta Hawks that help when it comes to carbon emissions. And one great example that we can talk about is, these cans, when they're crushed, collectively, they take up a whole lot less space, which ends up filling up a compactor, that big it's like a massive trash can that goes on the back of a waste truck that you guys have seen. Canned and compressed items take up less space, which means you don't need as many trips to transport it from one location to another. And with that, you reduce how much carbon emissions you're emitting because you're avoiding that. Thank you. All right. Here we are to talk to you about zero waste and a little bit about what zero waste means. So zero waste is the definition of if 90%, so all the things that you guys saw that we threw in here, out of that, if 90% of it is diverted from a landfill, so it's not being sent to a landfill. So this recycling bin, everything in here is going somewhere and being recycled into something else. Aluminum is infinitely recyclable. Plastic can be recycled if it's collected with, and it's the same kind, you know, that triangle that's on the bottom of things and has a number in it. That indicates what you can collect with what to recycle. Compost, of course, all of that combined together, and then versus what does go into a landfill. And that means you are zero waste if you can divert 90%. And we've got what the math looks like up here. If you ever want to calculate, you know, if you have a waste bin at home and you're curious, what's the percentage of diversion in this waste bin? And you want to do a quick audit and go through it and then categorize it by what is what, and then do the math, you can see, well, what would I be diverting versus what would be going to the landfill? Here is the story of what we were able to accomplish at State Farm Arena just within 2-year time period. This is the percentage reflected that was going to the landfill. So in 2019, our venue was sending more than 90% to the landfill. Now we're diverting more than 90% from the landfill. Recently, we did a big press release of what accomplishments were for the calendar year of 2022. So from January 1st until December 31st at State Farm Arena and the Atlanta Hawks, we were able to divert 2.5 million pounds. That's a lot of pounds. It's hard to really imagine what the heck is that. So then we were like, how can we make an analogy? Well, on average, 4 peaches weigh 1 pound. So then we realized that's 10 million peaches. Who likes peach cobbler here? Me too. That's a whole lot of peach cobbler. The other thing that we realized that could help us kind of tell this story is that if you took those peaches and you lined them up from the tip of the state of Georgia down to the southern tip, is how many peaches that would be. So that just represents the weight that was not sent to a landfill. Our venue was also recognized as the first place in the world that does operate zero waste, which means it doesn't matter if it's your favorite artist coming to a show, or the Hawks are playing, or we have a comedy tour. It doesn't matter what's going on. We're consistently diverting 90%. And that takes a lot of work, a lot of collaboration, and really coming together, going for the same goal. Here's another cool analogy to kind of relate what that weight looks like. And this is about cardboard. And we'll have a little cardboard activity at the end. But in 2021, we were able to divert enough cardboard that basically weighed the weight of that statue that we have outside of our venue. And that statue weighs 20,000 pounds. And then you also see what that looked like in 2022. We increased that number. When you think about styrofoam, and we don't have any styrofoam in our building, we don't intentionally buy any, but people will go out to lunch and maybe get something and come back with that item into our building. So the styrofoam that we do collect, we have a way to recycle that as well, as long as it's clean and we have a place to take it to. Cardboard, the beauty about cardboard is that it can be recycled into something else 5 to 7 times. So it's really important that we don't throw it into a regular trash can. The other cool thing about cardboard is that in our arena, where you go to buy team swag or your favorite player's jersey, and you end up getting everything in a bag, we have paper bags. And those paper bags are made from upcycled cardboard. So no virgin material was used. Here's the different ways that zero waste is possible. So one is infrastructure. And what we mean by that is this display right here. We think it's extremely important that when you come to our building for a show and you're walking around, getting yourself something to eat, that when you get to an opportunity to throw something away, you need to be set up for success. That way, you have the opportunity to do the right thing. So infrastructure is super important. Zach and team will go around before an event, walk around and make sure things are exactly where they need to be. We call that a quality control. Communication is really important. We let people know. We put labels on them. We go and talk to team members. We speak in their huddles. We really let them know what is what. Oftentimes, we find that a lot of people mean well. They just don't know what they don't know. So we make sure that it's our job to communicate that. And then supply chain. What does that mean? Well, we also have these aluminum cups at the arena. So this is an example of supply chain. We buy cups that are made from aluminum, that are infinitely recyclable, and that makes it easier to then recycle that 90% because we buy things that can be diverted from the landfill. Here are examples of pictures at the arena of things that were like a before photo and an after photo. There used to be only one bin on the left, and on the right, we put a couple of them together, added a label, and that now enabled someone to walk by and do the right thing. Same thing here. Wasn't the case, it is now, and we're doing it with our team members. Everyone's a part of the solution. Same thing here. This is an example of understanding how a space is used and then setting up for it. So if you guys, in your playroom or study room or in a space you walk into, you look at your trash can and see what's all in there. You're like, man, I throw a lot of cans in this room away. Maybe I should put a recycling bin there to collect all the cans, and then it's collected all by the same type of material. We do that here where we have a lot of batteries that are generated, and we recycle batteries too. Communication is super important, so letting people know when they don't know something, so that way they can play the part. On the left is a picture of how things were being thrown away improperly. Cardboard does not go in there with the plastic on there. Instead, we ask people to break it down and set it aside. This is just a label that shows you what all we buy, so it's not confusing for people when it's time to toss it away. Here are ways where we really go outside of our arena and into our community. We've donated a former stage of ours that we felt like it was in good shape to still be used, so we gave it to someone within our community. There's a picture of team members taking a trip to a place called Charm, Center for Hard to Recycle Materials, where we took all of the clean plastic film. Like what I noted earlier, if it's collected in bulk, it can be recycled. This is a really cool art piece that we unveiled recently. That piece behind Harry the Hog and the Can Man is 404 pounds of aluminum that we recycled at the arena that got turned into art. And it kind of reminds you, the right thing about recycling. So doing cool things and fun things to encourage people to do the right thing. Who likes Billie Eilish here? Okay, me too. What are some of your favorite artists? Shout them out. Okay. Well, all of those artists, if they are doing a tour and they're coming to Atlanta, they are going to have their first ever zero waste show because no other venue is certified for zero waste. This is just an example of, and shout out to Amadi, who's back there, who's come and helped us with. We've had a lot of teachers come and be part of our Zero Waste Ambassador program. So what we will do is strategically stand nearby, kind of like I am near this right now. And as guests are coming by to throw something away, I might advise them, oh, that goes right here, or that goes right here. The other thing that we do is then we reward random fans. So what's your name? Chris. So Chris walks up and properly throws his can away, and I happen to observe that. I might surprise and delight him, and we call this recycle and win. So what happens is I might tap Chris on the shoulder and say, hey, man, thank you so much for recycling. I have something for you, and we give them a gift. Sometimes it's a Hawks hat. Sometimes it's an upgrade to the floor for your favorite artist. But these are pictures of complete strangers coming to an event to just enjoy the game, and then they end up getting surprised with swag. all for recycling. How cool is that? So you never know. If you come to an event and you're recycling, never know who's watching. With that, I'm going to end on a quick activity, and we'll take one volunteer. You, yeah. So if there's anything that I would ask you guys to do and keep in mind is when it comes to cardboard, you know, if you take this cardboard and try to put it in a recycling bin, it's quite bulky. It's going to take up a lot of space, and that bag is going to get full really fast. So we ask you to keep this chant in mind. Time out, break it down, and then recycle it. So now, what's your name? John. John, you're going to get a chance to time out, break it down, then recycle. Can we do it together? Time out, break it down, then recycle it. All right, John, let's see it. Very cool. Look at how much less space that takes. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sophie and Zach, for bringing that to us. I hope everyone who got their swag enjoys their swag. Next up, I'm going to present to you the people who sort of were the masterminds behind this entire project, the people who reached out to Captain Planet Foundation to get all of this started and brought to you. Regina Wallace from the Social Studies Department at Clayton County.
Good morning, everyone. I hear everybody like social studies. I thought we were here for science. Well, hopefully you'll see by the end of today how social studies and science work together to bring you climate justice. Okay, so first of all, we want to talk about what comes to mind when you think about climate justice. Just shout it out. What do you think about when you think about climate justice? Okay, trash. What else? Sustainability. What else? Maybe pollution. I always think about those commercials that come on like 2 o'clock in the morning with the polar bears and the ice is melting and they don't have anywhere to go. What else do you think about? Green energy. Okay. I heard solar power. Maybe those Teslas. Why are they so popular right now? Okay. So it's not just about those things that typically come to mind. When we add that word justice, I want you to think a little bit differently. What comes to mind when you think about justice? Huh? Making things right. That means something has to be wrong. Okay, so we got to identify what's wrong, making things right. I love that. What else? Justice. Laws. Yes, what laws needs to be changed? Anything else? Justice. Y'all quiet. Justice. Equality, equality, equality. So when we put climate and justice together, we have to start thinking about what that looks like. And so to do that, we're going to be examining these particular pillars, these foundational things, okay? So when I talk about these things, I want you to yell out whether you think it's a science issue, a science term, something you heard of in your science classroom, or whether this is something you might hear in your social studies classroom, okay? So let's start with the pillar of land. Is that science or social studies? Okay, maybe. Anybody say social studies? You say both. Okay. Well, let's see who is correct. So when we talk about land, what is something good? What's the good part about land? What's something good? Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, so we have something about sanitation, maybe land, but what's something good though? Like, oh, planting. Okay, planting, harvesting, growing crops so that we can do what? Eat. If farmers don't grow crops, then we're gonna go hungry. So we need clean land. We need land that can be used to grow our food. So that's the good part, but let me give you the bad, because it's all about climate. What's that J word? Justice, right? So the bad about it is oftentimes, communities of color, minority communities, we don't really have a lot of green space, a lot of land that allows us to grow that food, a lot of land that is clean enough for us to have those harvested foods that we need. Do we all just want to eat chips all day? Is that good for it? I know you might say yes, but is that really good for us? No. So the ugly to that land part is a lot of times it happens in those minority communities. So when you think about climate, what's that J word? Justice. Remember, she said we got to identify what's wrong so we can make it right. All right, let's look at another pillar. Let's go to economy. Is that going to be in science or social studies? Anybody say science? Economy. Okay, so y'all going with social studies. Okay. We're going to see as you go to your breakout sessions, you're going to see who's right, who's wrong. So when we talk about economy, what's the good? What's the good? What's the good part? Money. Good. What's something good about economy? If we don't have money, we can't do what? Anything. Right? Anything. So that's the good part. We need economy, right? We need jobs. We need that money system. Let me give y'all the bad, because remember, like the young lady said, we got to identify the bad so we can know what we need to work on. A lot of times in communities or minority communities, we don't have access to the same jobs and to the same opportunities that may come around in other communities. A lot of times that comes from injustices. So again, when we're talking about climate justice, it's not just about the polar bears, but it's about what's going on right in your community today. So giving you the good, the bad, the ugly. Let's look at democracy, science or social studies? Okay, that is social studies. What comes to mind when you think about democracy? What's the good? Laws, freedom, okay? However, think about this. When we talk about these different pillars in climate justice, if we're not the ones voting, if we're not the ones saying, hey, we want a Whole Foods in this community. Hey, we want more green space in this community. We need more lakes. Are we really using our democracy? Or is our democracy using us? So like the young lady said, it's all about that J. What's the J word? If it's something wrong, you're here today to fix it. All right, let's talk about energy, science or social studies? All right, science. What is energy? What comes to mind when you think about energy? Okay, work, the sun, that solar energy, what else? Okay, being able to have factories and things like that. So that's the good, but I heard somebody mention a bad. If we have all these power plants and these things that are coming up to give us this energy, they're emitting what? Okay, emissions, basically pollution. So that's the bad part. The ugly is that a lot of those plants are in minority communities. I was just looking at a documentary of an all African American community that was thriving. And then because of that democracy, those laws, they came in and built factories surrounding the entire town. Now over 50% of the people living there have cancer. That is an injustice. And what are we here for? What is that, Jay? Justice. So if we're seeing those energy plants and those things being put up in those minority communities, there's obviously something that we need to do about it. Last but not least, let's go to water, science or social studies? Ooh. I don't know. Y'all gonna have to see when you go to your breakout sessions. Water. Somebody tell me something good about water. You need it to live. What else? It hydrates your whole body. What else? Not just us. Animals. Animals need it too, right? So that's the good about water. Now, the bad about water is that sometimes that water can become contaminated, right? Especially if it's around those factories that we just talked about, providing us with all that smoke and pollution, right? So the ugly, a lot of times those issues with water and having a lack of clean water, access to clean water, are in those minority communities. Who heard of Flint, Michigan? and the Flint, Michigan water crisis. Again, that's an example of a climate injustice, right? Again, Mississippi, it happened this summer in Mississippi. They did not have access to clean water. It was not everyone. It was those people in those communities of color, those minority communities. Is that justice? That is injustice. And like the young lady said, once we recognize it, we need to do something about it. So that is why you're here. What we're going to do, if you could click the slide, Janetta just left me hanging, but that's okay. One more time. This is why you're here, the Green Heart Challenge, okay? This is a competition. We want to hear from our brightest thinkers about how we can combat those injustices that we talked about, the good, the bad, and the ugly as they related to those pillars. You're going to be asked to submit a plan and a video pitch that basically identifies how those pillars can be used to address climate justice here. So anything that you want to address, anything that you want to identify as a focal point for your research and for your planning to do something about the injustices that we just talked about. You're going to come up with a plan, and you're going to, again, create a video pitch of why the issue is important to you and how you intend to create change. Now, I started off by saying, why am I here? I'm social studies, this is science. But again, you learn about the science and you use the social studies to correct the issue. That's where those laws come in. Once you learn about the issue in science, we're going to bring in social studies to show you how can you address those particular issues, okay? Now, this is a competition, okay? This is a competition, so I want you to get creative. I want you to tick. I want you to talk. I want you to do all of the above to show us how you're going to mitigate these issues with climate justice. Y'all get it so far? My last challenge to you guys, take out your cell phone real quick. In 10 seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, the 2, and the 1. You're going to go to Captain Planet Foundation. And I want you to do a little scavenger hunt where you're going to find one episode of Captain Planet. Now, Captain Planet used to be my favorite TV show as a little girl, but that was a long time ago. But to give you an idea, your challenge is to do a scavenger hunt to find where on their website they have an episode of Captain Planet for you to look at. Captain Planet Foundation. And you're going to look at that one episode. And when we have our follow-up, those students who have seen the episode that can tell us a little bit about it, we might have something special for you, okay? So again, today we're bringing the science and the social studies together to bring you the climate, what's that J word again? Justice, because like the young lady said, when we see something's wrong, we have to figure out a way to make it right. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back over to Ms. Greenwood, Science Coordinator for Clayton County Public Schools.
All right, you guys, give Ms. Wallace a round of applause on that. So you guys were awesome just now. Thank you all so much for participating. So we're going to talk about what's going to happen next. So as you're going through your sessions today, I want you to remember both words, climate justice, right? Because we're addressing climate change, but also social justice at the same time. So we are truly integrating science and social studies together. So when you get back to your schools, don't feel like you only can talk about this in science class or you only can talk about this in social studies, because in the real world, it all happens together, okay? Also, when we asked them to select students to come here today, we wanted the most hype, the most engaged, the smartest, the brightest, the ones who really care to be here today. I need to be convinced, because right now y'all are dead. So is that who I have in the room today? No? So that means I need to get you back on a bus so you can get back into your classroom and do the work in your class at your school. That's what I'm hearing? And you don't want to come to the kickoff event challenge when we're going to have some celebrity judges. Y'all don't want to be part of that either? Oh, okay. Yeah? Okay. So let me hear. Are we ready to do this work today? Oh, I still don't believe you. Are we ready to do this work today? Okay, sounds good. That's all I needed was a little bit of energy. I was getting sleepy. All right, you guys. So in a second, some of you guys are going to stay in here. And some of you guys are going to go upstairs and get some of that more information, because remember, your role today is to be delegates. Everybody know what a delegate is? That's a social studies word, right? That means you were selected to represent your class. And then you're going to take information back to them so they know what to do with that information, so that you guys can actually win the competition and get some awesome prizes when we get to April. Okay? So that's the plan. But if you can't do your role, then you're basically dropping the ball for your school. Because I'm thinking maybe, the schools we have here? Is Sequoia Middle going to win? Oh, I don't believe y'all. Let me find another school, because I don't think y'all going to win. Let's see. Who else we have? Do we have North Clayton High School in here? Where's North Clayton High School? They're not here? No. Drew High School, maybe them. Are y'all going to win? Oh, okay. Okay, no. Who do we have over here? Who's over here? Morrow, are y'all going to win? Oh, y'all got to work on convincing me. I don't believe you. Elite Scholars, are y'all going to win? Okay. So I'm hearing some people. I think you guys are getting there. You're getting there. You're going to win? What school are you from?
Sequoia.
I can't hear you.
Sequoia.
Sequoia said they're going to win, you guys. Y'all going to win? Is Sequoia going to win? Okay. All right. So keep that in mind. Keep that same energy, because in order to win, you got to bring the information back to your who? To your classmates, so that you guys can actually do the competition and submit, okay? All right, so some of you guys are going to go upstairs and learn some more information, and some of you guys get a chance to do the thing I love to do, which is eat. We're going to have lunch for y'all first, and then we'll do a flip-flop, and the second group that was upstairs will come down and eat, and you guys will go upstairs. So before you move, we have people who are going to guide you to your next session, okay? So make sure that you're paying attention so you'll know where you're about to go next. While you're eating in here, we have another competition. We have some prizes for people who participate. And then we also have the photo booth, and we're going to have some great music from my DJ, Pretty Tammy, over there. So Tammy, can you go ahead and play some music for me?
Right? You're supposed to love yourself, self-love. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. One more time. Good morning, guys. Morning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we've already sort of met, but I'll introduce myself again. My name is Robin. I'm the program coordinator at Cats and Planet Foundation. What's funny? So I work with young people who are interested in climate activism and getting involved with climate change and wanting to make a difference. I help them do those things. So that's one of the reasons I'm here with you today. I'm here today to talk to you about democracy and labor in terms of climate justice and how those two pillars play a role in the entire system. So let's first acknowledge everyone in the room who's 18 in here. Middle school. Right, exactly. So you may be thinking, how does democracy play a part in climate justice? How can I even make a difference in terms of democracy? And I want you to remember that democracy is all about representing the voice of the masses by the people who get elected. So while you cannot vote, you still have a voice. And what you care about and the issues that you care about still matter. So I don't want anyone to be discouraged by hearing the word democracy and thinking, well, I can't vote, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because eventually you will vote, and you need to know the issues that you're voting on. You need to know the people who you're voting for, and you can start doing all of those things now. There's no reason that you wouldn't be or shouldn't be aware of the politics that are happening in Clayton County, in Fulton County, in Atlanta, and all of those things, because eventually they're going to matter, even if you're in middle school. The other thing to recognize is that although you are in middle school, I believe it's way more influential for people who can't vote, but are still taking the time to take a stand and use their voices to let people who can vote and let people who are running for office to know what's important and what matters to them. So I just wanted to start it off with that disclaimer that I'm aware none of you can vote, but it doesn't mean that you don't have influence over democracy and over labor. So these two pillars play, I think, an important role in climate justice. Earlier, Ms. Wallace was talking about the separation between science and social studies. I think she was maybe trying to drive home the point that there isn't a huge separation when it comes to climate justice, right? Because a lot of those things can go into one or the other. So democracy very much plays on the ideas of social studies. If any of y'all take civics, if any of y'all are doing any of those learnings about politics and things of that nature. But labor, what is labor? What do you think about when you hear the word labor? Work, yeah. What'd you say? What'd you say? Work, yeah, exactly. So what do you do for work? There are tons of different jobs that people have. Obviously, this is my job. You have teachers in the building, but the access to safe and equitable jobs is a part of labor. What jobs are people who are in minority and Black and brown communities doing compared to people who are maybe in more affluent communities or in white communities? And it's important to recognize those disparities, because how many people would like to work in a coal factory? Nobody, right? But the large percentage of people who are working in these jobs are BIPOC communities, lower class people, right? So these are disparities that are really important to acknowledge in terms of climate justice, because if we're investing in things like coal, if we're investing in non-renewable energy sources, we're going to continue to have these jobs that people don't necessarily want to have. And we're going to continue to elect people who are furthering those coal and fossil fuel systems rather than switching over to renewable and clean energies, rather than switching to people who are advocating for climate justice policies and legislations and things of that nature. So recently, Atlanta was just acknowledged as one of the most sustainable forward cities. Did anyone read anything about that? See anything about that? The city of Atlanta itself is definitely making huge strides in working towards sustainability and having a clean economy. We are one of the greenest cities, right, with all of our trees in the city of Atlanta. But as people who live in Clayton County, are you hearing about these things? No. Are you seeing any of these things? No. So that's all an effect of our democracy systems. We want to make sure that we're aware of what's happening in our major cities versus what's happening in the metro Atlanta cities, Because if Atlanta's one of the most sustainable cities, why don't the kids who are in our schools know about those things? Why aren't we learning about them? Why aren't they being emphasized in your classrooms, right? So these are all things to think about. And I know that it can seem abstract and it can seem like, well, why am I investing my time in learning about democracy or labor? Again, just because you're not of voting age doesn't mean that you don't have influence over voting age people and over those people who are running for office. If you ever see on Instagram, right? How many of you ever like signed a petition that you saw on Instagram? Nobody? Who's ever like, have you ever seen a petition on Instagram? People will post like little, what is a petition say? I forget what it's called. Yeah, those kinds of things. What about a letter writing campaign? Have you ever heard of writing letters to people to let them know how you feel? Or calling your local legislators, doing some phone calls and letting them know that you're not happy about certain things? These are all actions that y'all can take in terms of trying to make a difference in the realm of climate justice. And I think this is something personally I relate with a lot because while I'm not someone who's involved with politics, right, I do work for a nonprofit. So that gives me an outlet in order to let people know what my beliefs are, what my environmental concerns are, and why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. When I was growing up in Clayton County, I grew up in Riverdale, I was always sort of contrasted with the idea of wanting to work for a civil rights organization and wanting to like invest my time in advocating for social justice and overall Black prosperity and Black wealth and things of that nature. I was also really deeply concerned with what was happening with the environment. This was, I mean, I'm not that much older than y'all, but this was back in a time when there was still even a debate on whether climate change was real. People were saying that global warming wasn't real, and you know, people were saying it really is, and that doomsday is coming sooner than we all think. So this is even at a time where there wasn't even a clear narrative on what climate justice was. No one was teaching these kinds of things. So I didn't know that I could invest in both. I didn't know that I could combine my passion for social justice and civil rights with my passion for the environment. And what came out of my doing my own research and having days like this where people came and talked to me at school is that you don't ever have to separate the two. They can be one and the same. So climate justice is really that combination of science and social studies in a really beautiful way, where you can invest your time into justice in general, but better communities and better the environment. So I think this is a cool, almost new-ish topic that people are starting to dive into. People are starting to invest in those things. And we're starting to see that, like I said earlier, you cannot separate people from the planet. And so eventually these social systems that we're all seeing, and every day we hear about racism and we hear about injustices and we're constantly faced with these things, they're also affected by climate change. If we don't have clear systems that protect these marginalized communities, eventually water is going to become something that's scarce. It's going to be harder for us to access clean water. Food is going to be something that's difficult to access because we don't have those structures in place to protect those things which are human rights. That makes sense. Big words, big concepts. I think I have 2 minutes-ish. If you have any questions about anything, ultimately what I want you to take away from democracy and labor is the idea that although you are not of voting age, you still have influence over the democracy and labor policies that affect your communities. Y'all gonna have to get jobs one day. I'm sorry to tell you, it was really hard truth I had to accept when I graduated college. You are gonna have to get a job. But that job can be doing something which you're really passionate about. It can be protecting climate. It could be protecting social justice, but it can also be doing both.
Do you want to tell them about what Dyson did in Hawaii to get that?
We had, we call our young people who work with us planeteers because we're planeteers. We had a planeteer who initially went into a training program which we offer to learn about ocean plastics and how straws and things of that nature. Everyone knows about a strawless life. He was learning about the impacts of that on the ocean. Through his own passions, through his own research, he realized that in his state of Hawaii, they were planning to open a coal-fired power plant, which would have detrimental impacts because of runoff, because of water pollution and things of that nature. And so he, as a 12-year-old,
13,
16-year-old, right? So still not legal age. He still collaborated with young people from his area to get that coal-fired power plant shut down. So that was the last coal-fired power plant in Hawaii that they are no longer in use because of the voice of young people like Dyson, 16 years old. You don't have to be voting in order to make a difference in your community. You just have to have a little bit of passion, a little bit of empathy. Right, Samantha? Yeah, girl. Cool. Time? Okay. So, what's gonna happen for the rest of the day is y'all are gonna stay here. And we're gonna have another speaker come in to you guys to talk about two more pillars of climate justice. There's gonna be 6 total, so you're gonna have 2 more speakers that are gonna come in here today. So really start diving into what's something that's sparking your interest right now. What kind of project would you want to put together? What kind of problems are you hearing about and identifying? And then how do you want to construct solutions to those things? So I'm not here to just to be the doom and gloomer person. I'm here to get you thinking about what kinds of ways you can impact and affect change in your community. Sound good? You guys do that? I know you can. Everyone can do it. It's gonna be great. All right, have a great day, y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
Put this right in front of my face.
Oh, just
Right up here.
Oh, right.
right here, right here. Up here.
Okay. All right. Good morning, y'all. How you doing?
Okay.
Y'all so spread out. What grade is this?
7th
Seventh and eighth. Okay, beautiful. Well, good morning. My name is Habibullah Abdullah. I am an urban farmer, and I am also the new garden educator for True Living Well. True Living Well is a nonprofit located in the west end of Atlanta. It was started in 2006, so it has been around for some time now, right? And I've made my way there. It was started by Rashid Nori, who is one of the pioneers in urban agriculture. And he's a big name in Georgia agriculture today. Truly Living Well has hosted many of the farmers that are located in Atlanta today through education, community service. And at Truly Living Well, we focus on regenerative agriculture. Has anyone ever heard this term before? No. Has anyone ever heard this term permaculture? Okay, well, both of those terms are describing a method of farming with nature in mind, or farming in harmony with nature, right? So what this means is that you're mindful of the different things that you're putting into your soil. You're mindful of what goes into your food. You're mindful of what type of water you're using. You're mindful about pretty much everything, right? And you look to nature for that inspiration first. So that's some of the things that we focus on. We do a lot of community engagement and education as well, and that's where I come in. And so at TLW, we produce quality food, right? Our farm also enhances the environment and it improves the health of our community, right? So there are a few benefits to urban farms. Some of them are increasing the air quality or improving the air quality in the area that we are in, right? And so Truly Living Well has over 100 different trees on our property. 7-acre farm in the middle of Atlanta. Okay, got to see it. It's pretty crazy. And so these trees help to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions around the area, right? Also, what farms serve as is a space for water runoff to come and permeate, right? So the issue with water runoff is that our soil, a lot of times our soil is much too compact, meaning it's too dense for water to permeate and go through, right? And if you think about it, that's where our water is located. It's underground, it's in aquifers, it's sitting, right? And so farms serve as a way for that stormwater, when we get lots of rain, that water won't end up flooding the streets. Why? Because it has somewhere to go, essentially. And so urban farms also, or specifically sustainable farms, farms that use natural and organic methods, they also help to build up the soil structure. Now, this is very important when we're talking about land and we're talking about water. Why? Because soil is the foundation of really all life on earth. Why do I say this? Because healthy soil produces healthy food, which produces healthy people, right? That is our saying at Truly Living Well. And so at the foundation of what we teach is soil and learning about soil quality and understanding what the soil needs. So in your lifetime, you will actually be facing many of the issues related to climate justice. One of them being saving soil, right? And so we are now being faced with the fact that our soil is losing nutrients. What does that mean? Our soil has no nutrients. What does that mean?
Losing the minerals, I guess that helps us to be healthier.
Absolutely, right? And so you're supposed to get your minerals, your vitamins from food. Why? Because every mineral on earth exists in the soil, right? And so if you're lacking iron or calcium or magnesium or any of these things, you can find them usually, or you're supposed to be able to find them in your soil and in your food, right? That is how you get them into your body outside of taking vitamins and different things like that, right? So anyone in here iron deficient? I am as well. So there are a lot of different plants and herbs that will actually help to remediate that. But there's a lot of times people don't know about these things. Why? Because we don't have these urban spaces to come and learn these different things, right? Learn how to eat, to live, which is what we're supposed to be doing. And so nature is very cyclical, right? The sun comes up every day, doesn't it? Every day. What will you do without it? The moon comes out every night. The seasons change every year, right? The leaves fall off the tree every year. And so what can we do to complete the cycle that is missing to return nutrients to our soil? How can we return nutrients to the soil? Anyone know? How do we get nutrients back into our soil? Anyone ever heard of composting?
Yes.
Right? So that goes into recycling, right? Waste diversion. So a lot of times you'll find that all of these different pillars of sustainability really tie in, well, with one another, but very much so with the land, right? Because everything comes from land. If you think about metals, all right, aluminum, any metal you can think of, crystals, right, different minerals, foods, fruit, water, it all comes from the land, right? And so it's very important that we educate ourselves right now on these things, because they say by 2050, we will have 90%, or we'll have 10% of life in our soil, right? So 90% of our soil life will be gone by 2050. This is what they're saying. So one of the ways that we can mitigate that is to begin composting, right? Find your urban farms. Learn what composting is. Participate. That is the biggest thing. And the beautiful things about urban farms is that they provide that space for a community to come together to learn, right? To learn new things, to learn about yourself, right? And they also give you that access to quality foods. Okay. I didn't ask anyone to start a timer, but thank you. Okay. Has anyone heard of the chopper system? Yes? Somebody here? Yes. What do you know about the choppers? Anyone ever seen Avatar? The Last Airbender?
Oh, yeah,
I know y'all know about choppers.
I know.
You do?
I think.
So can you
I
explain
know
the
the
choppers a little bit?
So there's air, fire, earth, and water.
Right? Kind of very similar to the Captain Planet thing, right? And so in Avatar, Aang has to learn to balance his chakra network, right? And there's 7 of them that he goes through. But I want to ask you all a question. What color is most prevalent in nature?
Green.
Green, absolutely. And does anyone know what color that relates to as far as the chakra system? Actually, Earth, but also the heart, right? So green is the color of the heart chakra. So what do you think this says about nature? The fact that the most prevalent color in nature is green, right? And so the science behind this is that each color emits a different frequency, right? So whenever you see it, it's emitting a different frequency. So the green collar that you wear, that is emitting a frequency that my eye is picking up. So what that tells me about nature is that nature can heal us, right? It can heal our hearts. We have a lot of heart disease in America, heart illnesses in America, right? Because people's hearts are stressed. And so nature actually provides a way for you to come and alleviate that stress. One, through just being in nature, right? And 2, in being involved in nature. Did you know that there are beneficial microbes in the soil that actually help to reduce anxiety and depression? Right? And so this is why it's important that we get back in touch, get back in tune with nature, because there's so much that she has to provide, and there's so much that we in turn have to do for her, right? Via composting and continuing to learn about her. Which one of these is land? Anyone ever seen this symbol before, outside of where we are now? So this symbol is also located on my hoodie, right? And it represents Sankofa. Anyone ever heard of Sankofa? Well, Sankofa is a term from Ghana, and it means to go back and get it, right? And learn from it. Go back and get it and learn from it. And so that's where we find ourselves right now in history. Learning from our past, right? Anyone heard of the Dust Bowl, right? We learned about that. Huge ecological crisis that we don't want to witness or experience again. And so in order to not do that, we have to learn more organic practices, healthier practices for our soil. Right? Does anyone have any questions?
I'm curious if any of the schools that y'all go to have compost or composting systems for your cafeteria waste. No, so if you were interested in land or interested in earth, that would be a project that you could put together for this
Absolutely.
challenge.
Composting is a big one. Do we have any questions? Anyone in here know? Oh, yes.
My question is, so you said that the farm is located in Atlanta. What area of Atlanta?
So it's in the West End. Mhm.
It's not dangerous.
It's not dangerous. No, the West End is not dangerous. I mean, anywhere can be dangerous, you know? So, yes.
So I have a question. I've been doing research on my social studies project about the drought in Georgia, how it affects Georgia farmers. I've learned that in it started in 2006 and ended in 2009. I think the drought, so did it really affect y'all while you were doing the
So in 2009, I was in high school. So I wasn't actually a farmer then, but I can certainly say that it probably would have affected farmers. one of the things that we're seeing now is that you can't really grow things like tomatoes anymore, right? It's becoming too hot. But it is also meaning that we can grow things like banana trees here now. We can grow more fruit here now. So it seems as though, our climate is certainly changing, and we're becoming, we're gaining a new region, basically. So we'll be able to grow different things, but also some things will have to phase out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Anyone here interested in gardening or farming? Growing your own food, self-sustainability? Yes.
What does it take to do a community garden? Like, what are some things that you need to think about to have that?
Well, one of the most important things is land. Where are you going to get your land from? A lot of times, you can go to your city and they have different land allotments that they allow you to rent out for like $1. Or no, Atlanta has a program where they do that. And then after that, it's community. You're going to need hands, right? So how do you recruit people? How do you get people interested in what it is that you're doing? Another thing is supplies, right? Are you going to do ground beds? Are you going to do raised beds? How are you going to grow this food? And also, once you grow this food, what are you going to do with it? Right? So it's a lot to think about. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wear it, guys, if you like one, you can wear it. All right, who do I have in the room? What schools? Forest Park. Is that it? Is it just one school?
Yes.
What grades?
7th,
7th and 8th? Okay, cool. You guys, this is the last rotation. So have you had any brilliant ideas from the other two speakers so far? Little ideas? Do you guys have a general idea of what we're doing here?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a climate challenge, climate justice challenge. There are two themes. Fire. Does anybody know, remember what fire is representing? He's like, I just know it. Yes, energy and transportation issues. What is Earth representing?
Land and water.
Mm-hmm. What is it?
Land and water.
Land and water and sort of the food systems and soil and all of that good stuff, right? So what we were talking about when we were downstairs, there's someone in the other room who's the one who said it, right? When we're talking about justice, what does that mean?
Quality, something that's right.
Do something that's right, which means that something's not right,
Yeah.
right? And being able to identify a problem in these two themes and then figure out how can we correct that problem, right? How can we create a system that is more clean, that isn't contributing to climate change, that is just, right? So that's what we're doing here. So my name is Courtney. I work for the Captain Planet Foundation. I'm also a professor at Virginia Tech. Who's heard of Virginia Tech? Go Hokies, football, or basketball, right? We're good at basketball. We're not very good at football. So Virginia Tech, I am a professor in the College of Natural Resources. What does that term mean, natural resources?
Natural means something that's just there, you didn't create it, man-made. And resources is just basically Resources.
Resources, exactly. So there's natural resources, there's human resources, there's lots of different resources, right? And resources are a big part of what drives our economy. It's the things that we use to make things, to trade things, like a lot of the things that we use are resources, right? And a lot of the things that we use are coming from natural resources. Look around this room, do you see anything in here that comes from a natural resource? Just about everything in this room came from a natural resource, right? We see wood, we see there's inputs from sheetrock that came from natural resources. Is electric coming from a natural resource? Yeah. Like all of this stuff, paper, natural resource? Yeah. So all of these things are coming from natural resources. So when we think about our natural resources, it sounds kind of like, I don't know, it sounds something, but they're all around us and they affect every part of our life. When we think about natural resources, in my mind anyway, there's two big categories of natural resources. There's renewable resources and there's non-renewable resources. Can anybody define or give me an example of a renewable resource? Let's try someone else. What's that? It's something you can reuse over and over. Do you have an example of a natural resource that is renewable?
The sun.
Yeah, the sun is one. What's that?
Energy.
So energy coming from the sun, maybe, yeah. How about wood? Is wood renewable? Yeah, let's give ourselves a 100-year time horizon, right? Like we can grow another tree in 100 years, probably less. Is water renewable?
Yes.
Yeah, we can make it dirty, but it doesn't go away, right? It's still there. Is coal renewable?
No.
No. So when we talk about, the reason that I'm talking about energy and economy is we're talking about where energy comes from and what are the impacts of where that energy comes from. So what are some examples of, well, let's talk about in this room, there's electricity, right? How can we make electricity? What natural resources can go into electricity? Sun. The sun can make solar energy, absolutely.
You can use wind, like those wind fans
Yeah.
to create kinetic energy so it can be transferred into electricity.
Exactly.
Use water,
Wind is absolutely, did you say water?
hydroelectricity.
Hydroelectricity, wind.
Dams.
Yeah, absolutely. These are all forms of renewable energy, right? What are some other sources of electricity? So we have a whole category of renewables. Let's think about non-renewables. What are some ways that we make energy that is not renewable? I gave you an example of it. Dirty, big black rock.
Coal.
It looks good, Kim. Yes, then we've got coal, we've got fossil fuels, we've got all these things that are in the ground that are not renewable. What is coal? What is it? What are fossil fuels? Where do they come from? Do we know? No. Hold on. Fossils. What are fossils? They are old dead things, right? They're old dead things. So if you think about fossil fuels being old dead dinosaurs and all the plants that lived when the dinosaurs were there, right? So they are millions of years of dirt down below the ground. When we pull up those dinosaurs and those dead dinosaurs, that's coal and it's fossil fuels and all this stuff, and we burn them, what are they doing?
Emitting gas.
Yeah.
Or emissions.
Who's heard of the term carbon? Okay, what's an example of something? Are you made of carbon? Yeah, you are, right? Is she? Thanks. Right, like dinosaurs, are they made of carbon? Trees? Yeah, all of these things were made of carbon, right? And carbon's normal. Carbon is everywhere. We're not bad, right? We're good. We're made of carbon. Who has been inside of a greenhouse? Describe the feeling when you walk in a greenhouse, red sweatshirt. Come on. Oh, it was still moving. Nope. You know what when you walk into a greenhouse, how do you feel? How about over there? You said it. The greenhouse, you walk in and it's nice and warm, right? It's humid. That's what makes the plants grow nicely, right? It's a lot of carbon in the air, a lot of gases in the air that are nice and keeping it nice and toasty. You guys have heard of the greenhouse effect. Have you heard that term?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know roughly what it's referring to?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So it's basically harmful gases that affect the ozone layer, which then could create a lot of heat from the solar system, so we won't be protected.
So yes, and is it necessarily a bad thing? Is it necessarily harmful?
Which not
So when we create a greenhouse to grow plants, is that a bad thing? No, right? We're just making a nice, warm, cozy place for plants to grow. The planet needs that. So the greenhouse effect is important to keeping the whole planet at this nice, cozy temperature, makes everybody happy. But then when we start pulling up all this extra carbon and releasing all this extra gas into the air, it's making it even hotter, right? So if you imagine walking into a greenhouse where there's too much heat and you're like, oh, get me out of here. That's essentially what we're doing when we're pulling carbon up out of the ground and burning it and making it into atmospheric carbon, and too much than the system can handle. So, renewable and non-renewable. Do we have the technology? So if we were to get rid of coal, right? If we were to get rid of some of the non-renewable sources of energy, do we have the technology to go to something like solar?
Yes.
Yes. Do we have something like the technology that goes to something like wind?
Yes.
Do we have the technology to go to something like hydropower?
Yes.
So why aren't we? That's a great question, right? So we have the technology, it exists. What are some of the things that are keeping us from going from non-renewable resources to renewable? Money. Money could be a big piece of this, right? So if you think about coal, right? If I dig up coal and I have this coal, it's my coal. I can sell that coal. Can I sell the sun?
No.
It's harder, right? So our economy is based on a lot of non-renewable resources and things that we can hold and own and sell, right? As opposed to things that we can't really capture. We can't really capture water. We can't really capture wind. We'd have to be a magician, right? So there's that. So our economy is kind of built on non-renewable resources because the idea that we can capture them and we can sell them, right? What are some things that we could do to help shift from a non-renewable to renewable? Think about right here. How did you get to this building? A bus, right? So what went into that bus to power that bus?
Yes.
Diesel or gas, right? Is there another alternative?
Yes.
What could be an alternative? Biking, walking, what else?
The
Electric buses, absolutely.
But
Clayton County Public Schools got I think it's $23 million grant from the federal government this fall to start moving from diesel-powered buses to electric buses. Did you hear about that?
Mhm.
I was talking to your transportation director, and she was saying that one electric bus costs about $350,000, which is the cost of 3 diesel buses. That's a hard shift, right? Like, so if you need school buses and I have a certain amount of money, I could spend 3 times as much on an electric bus or get 3 dirty buses, right? That's hard. That's part of this injustice, right? And it's harder, it's more expensive. Think about an electric bus. Can you just magically shift everything over to electric? And that's it, done? What else do you need? So Sophie downstairs during the Hawks thing, she was talking about these 3 things that were essential to get State Farm Arena to be waste-free. There was one that had an I. It started with an I. It's really important. It's not just like, we magically declare that we're going to be waste-free. Who said it? Infrastructure. What does that word mean? Let me know. It's a long word.
I guess it means to situate to know what the problem is.
Kinda. So think about your phone, right? So this phone is life-changing. I depend on it. It's great. It's awesome until it's dead, right? And then what? It's a paperweight. Unless I have what? A charger. And what does that charger require? Energy. And that charger, I have to have a cord, I have to have a plug, I have to have everything that works. All the components of these systems that make these solutions work. So infrastructure is things like that. Like, so with the electric bus, what kind of infrastructure would you need? Yeah, you would need charging stations, right? You would need places for buses to park so that they could charge. You said walking and biking are 2 other things. Can I just magically say, everybody walks to school now? No. Well, it would be a whole problem, wouldn't it? What kinds of infrastructure would we need to be able to say, walking to school is a good solution, it's clean, renewable, solution, but we need all of these different things. What are things that we would need to do to make it safe for you guys to walk to school?
Sidewalk.
Somebody said it.
Sidewalk.
A sidewalk. We need to make sure there's good sidewalks. What else?
Signs that show like there.
These signs, absolutely. These seem like insignificant pieces of the puzzle, right? But they're all essential pieces of the puzzle. Did someone have something over there? Did you say something? Okay. Yeah. So like signs, crosswalks, sidewalks, crossing guards, all of these pieces that make up part of the solution. So in this challenge, you guys are being asked to figure out what is the problem, what's not right, right? And then propose and design and propose a solution for how to make it right. When you're thinking about these problems, there are big solutions, right? Like electric bus, that would be a great solution. Or everybody walks. But there are a lot of these components, these pieces of the infrastructure that we also need to be thinking about. Captain Planet Foundation works with young people just like you who are trying to solve these problems all around the world. We work with kids in 90 different nations. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we see is everybody wants to solve it all, right? They want to do it all and be like, I have one young man that I worked with who said, I'm going to get rid of all the plastic in Mexico. Okay, that's a great dream and it's a great goal. But who it's going to help? What piece are you going to take on first? What's the first step? So as you guys are thinking about your problem and the solution, be thinking about all the pieces that make up that solution, right? And it sounds like not very exciting to be talking about putting up signs so that people are walking, but it's a critical piece of that solution, right? So be thinking about all the pieces of that puzzle that make up the solutions. Thoughts, questions, concerns, ideas, outrage. Nothing. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going downstairs now, and you guys are going to be eating lunch, and we're going to be starting to think about what you heard, what ideas you have about some of the challenges you may want to tackle. What are some of the, let's not get ahead of ourselves to like what's the solution, but be thinking about how does this challenge, how do you see things that you've heard? How do you see them in your community? How are they showing up? What are some of these injustices that you might be able to focus on and start to design solutions to address? Yeah? Cool? Okay.
All right, guys, we're just going to like find our way like into a line and back downstairs.
All right, you guys. All right, so we're down to the end of the day. So hopefully you guys have had a good time, have some great ideas that's kind of marinating a little bit in your brain, and you're ready to take this information back to your classmates and share. What I'm going to do very briefly is go over the actual competition and the rules, okay? So this part is very important because I would hate for you to put so much time and effort into whatever you come up with and then not be able to submit because you didn't follow all the requirements, okay? So we're going to talk about that very briefly. Also, as promised, we have some prizes to give away. Throughout the day, we've just kind of been paying attention to people, seeing how engaged they are, things that they're doing. Honestly, the best prizes is when you get it unexpectedly. So we have some things that's going to go out today to some people who are just really doing their part already by being good stewards of their community. And then also, how many of you guys had a chance to go look at that Captain Planet piece? Anybody? Okay. Who thinks they can either hum the tune or the actual words to the Captain Planet theme song? You think it? But you cannot be an adult. Nope. You have to have already be able to do it right this moment. Anybody? Going once? Going twice? Oh, man. And I actually had an Amazon gift card for you. Okay. So what lesson did we just learn? Always do the assignment because you never know what you're going to get out of it. Okay. All right. So, we have somebody who said they can do it. Oh, okay. So either hum the tune or sing the words, and it's okay because I can't sing on key either. So if you're not on key, it's all right. Dang it. Okay. This is for an Amazon gift card. Come on. Yeah.
Think of the money.
Right. Shut up. You got it. That's it. That is it. Okay. And the words are Captain Planet, he's our hero. And then there's more to it. But yes, she got the tune. And I think the gift card is between either $25 or $50. I can't remember which one, but it's one of them. Oh, now y'all interested. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the Green Heart Challenge, okay? So the Green Heart Challenge, I have one more Amazon gift card to give away, and I also have some tickets to the Botanical Gardens, and I think I have some tickets to the aquarium as well. Okay, but we'll see. The feeling has to hit me. I have to feel it. All right, let's talk about the Green Heart Challenge. So you all, today you learned a lot of information, okay? I do not expect you to walk away being experts today. But your goal is to become experts, to make sure you understand what climate change is, because in order to understand how it's impacting your community, you have to understand what it is in the first place, okay? So your first part is understanding climate change, and then now taking that understanding and understanding how it's impacting your community. So I'll give you a couple examples. I think at the beginning, Ms. Wallace mentioned something about sometimes these companies build these things in your environment that pollutes the air, pollutes the water, pollutes the soil, and you oftentimes see high amounts of either cancer or asthma in your community, okay? See, somebody said they got asthma. So we also have what we call food deserts. Everybody know what a food desert is, or anybody know what a food desert is? Okay, so when you drive around Clayton County, you see a bunch of fast food restaurants and very little fresh access to good, wholesome foods, right? So that creates a food desert that negatively impacts your community from a health standpoint. So that's also something that if you decide, you may decide to do something around a garden. I think there's one on, is that Terra Boulevard, where they have the vegan garden. There's a community garden, veganish for the community. So things like that. So you think about what you can actually do, you all. It doesn't have to be something big. It has to be doable. And it could just be an improvement on somebody else's idea. So you don't have to come up with anything brand new from scratch. It could actually be something that already exists that you decide that, hey, I'm gonna put my own spin on it. You may decide you want to do something around TikTok. TikTok is fine. You may decide you want to do something around upcycling when it comes to clothes, because that is something that is real. I'm wearing Adidas right now that were made from recycled materials. Adidas is very big on it. There's a lot of companies, if you actually start to do the research, that are very big on recycled materials because they understand that that's also polluting the environments. The dyes that we put in our clothes pollutes the environment. So there's a variety of angles you can go from. Okay, so I just want everybody to know there's a variety of angles you can go from and do what interests you and what you think you can actually implement. Now, you have two parts to this competition, or really one competition, but two pieces that you have to submit. You have to submit a written plan, and you have to submit an actual video. The video can only be about 60 to 90 seconds. So think of it like TikTok. You know, I had to put a lot of information in a short amount of time, but get your point across. And then you also have to actually do the written plan. Now, you can work in groups of no more than 5. How many? Okay, so you could do less, but we know that things work better when you have a what? A team, okay? And make sure that everybody in the team do their part. Now, today you're in part 1, which was the kickoff event where we're going over everything, but then you have the next 2 months. So you have 2 months to work on this with your classmates, because it's not just about you who got the information today. Remember, you have to take it back to your classmates and share with them as well. So you have the next 2 months to truly start digging into whichever one speaks to you. So you may say, I want to focus on the democracy lens, or I may want to focus on the land lens. Whatever lens you want to look at it through, it's up to you, because this is where you have choice, okay? Then you also, during the week of April, Earth Week. Does everybody know what Earth Week is? April 22nd, right? All right. So during that week, we will actually have the competition. And you will actually have to have already submitted in March your final plan and your actual video. And we'll select the top 10 to actually compete live at that actual event. And we'll have some celebrity judges there. The good news is, everybody that submits will be invited to the competition, whether you actually are selected to compete or not. Okay, so that's good news. So that means you actually have to what? Submit. Does that make sense? Okay, in order to get that invitation. All right, so what are the parts that you have to have in your actual final piece that you're turning in? All right, hi, I know you. I'm sorry, just put you on the spot. One of my science fair winners is in here. Okay. So we have, what parts of the project has to be present? You have to have the problem. So what problem are you helping to solve? If you cannot tell me that, then that means you haven't done your true research. I need to know that you're actually solving a problem. Okay. Your solution, how are you solving the problem? So you can't just tell me the problem. You have to tell me what you've decided to do to solve it. And then actually tell me your actual process. So I expect details, okay? If you give me surface, I can tell you right now you will not win. It has to give me the details so I understand how you plan on actually doing this. So if you tell me that, oh, I'm going to give a bunch of recycled clothes to 1,000 homeless people, that's great, but what's your plan? And how does that, what problem is that solving? Not saying there's not a problem that exists, but what problem are you solving? If you can't tell me that, then that means you're not going to probably advance to the final round, okay? Your innovation. So what is different about your project compared to other programs or solutions already out there? How is your approach new or innovative? So remember, I said you can use something that already exists, but you have to put your own what on it? Your own spin, okay? So we had Sophie here earlier talking about zero waste. You guys remember that? So she's done some great things. Think about what could that look like possibly in your building or in your neighborhood or in your apartment complex or in your church, and put your own spin on it. So it could be something innovative that works for you, okay? Founding story. So share a story about your aha moment that led you to get started or inspired your plan. So aha moments when you're like, I get it now. This is what I want to do. So think about it. It could have been something today. It could have been one of the sessions you sat in. It could have been listening to Sophie. It could have been listening to Miss Wallace. It may be when you get back to school and you're having conversations with your classmates. Whatever that aha moment is, be able to share it and speak to it. Because when you think about TikTok or Facebook or whatever, they always have a story attached to what they're talking about, okay? Impact. What impact do you hope your project to have in your community? Because remember, this is about righting a wrong. Is that what Ms. Wallace said earlier today? So justice is about righting a wrong. So if it's not going to impact your community, not saying it's not a good idea, it's just not the idea for this particular competition, okay? We want it to impact your community. because and I say we are disproportionately impacted by climate change. And then what's next? How are you planning to take your project to the next level? What support do you need to take it to the next level? Remember, whatever you come up with, it has to be something that's actionized, meaning I have to be able to see you do it. It can't just be some theory, some plan that you have just on paper. You have to be prepared to actually do it and tell us what you need to make it happen. It cannot be $1 million because that's not doable for you, correct? So it has to be something that's doable for you that maybe you just need a little support from us to make it happen, okay? Your video pretty much is everything I just talked about, but now instead of it just being written, you're actually gonna what? Say it, okay? So in 60 to 90 minutes, you're gonna make your campaign pitch, and you will start the video by saying, I am stepping up to be a change maker because, and then you give me your pitch. And you talk about all the things we just talked about. Okay, but you have to do it in 60 to what? 90 seconds. And be creative and innovative in it. No pressure. Okay? All right. Some additional criteria that we'll be looking at. The quality of your change maker plan. So are you actually making a real difference? Creativity and innovation. Okay, so are you coming up with a new way to look at it, shake things up? Commitment. So are you going to do something that you stay committed to and will have a lasting impact? Because the whole point is to make your community better and righting some what? Wrongs, okay? And then connection. Make sure you're doing something that connects to you, because when you believe in something, it comes across authentically, right? When you don't believe in it, we can also tell that as well. So choose something that means something to you. Teachers can give you some great recommendations and suggestions, but if you don't believe in it, you're not going to own it, and it's going to come across when you try to present it. So make sure it's something you believe in, something that matters to you, okay? And we want to see that in your final presentation. All right, so that's pretty much the overview of the actual competition. And of course, if you have questions, no worries, because guess what? We're going to make sure we're supporting you over the next couple of months. We're going to work with your teachers. You'll have some opportunity to sign up for some mentoring sessions where we'll come out and actually mentor you and help you and guide you in your thinking. And so we have a website that Robin's going to talk about very briefly that you have access to right now. So go ahead and take a picture of the screen so you can see the website, but your teacher also will have it as well if you're not able to take a picture. But this is your website to get all the resources, all the information that you need for the competition. And you want to share this with your classmates because they can actually see some of the videos that we recorded today from today's event, okay? Now, after Robin speak, I will give out a couple of more prizes. And then after that, guess where you're going to go? Home, okay? School, and then home. Okay, here's Robin.
You can't be teasing them like that, Janetta. All right, you guys, I'm actually going to stand over here so that I can navigate through the platform and show y'all how it works. So the link, if you can't see it, the link that you're going to go to is herofortheplanet.org/greenheartchallenge. So your overview and welcome is just an introduction. It has some important terms and things that you're going to want to know moving forward. And then if you go here, you did get a lot of background today about climate change and climate justice. But if you want to do a little bit more research and get started with more information in that deep dive, you can read more about that here. So we actually have some information provided for you. And this is how you're going to navigate through the platform. So there's buttons that takes you through. There's some information. And if there's words that you don't know, there's actually a glossary. So if you go down here and go to the glossary, you can see some of the words that you might not know. Everything that Janetta just said about the challenge is going to be here. So there's a breakdown about what the challenge is, the themes and the pillars that you learned about today, the plans and what needs to be included in your plans is all here. So this will help you if you need to refer back to it later on in the process of putting it all together. The rules and the details are here. And then the timeline is going to be here. And the videos of what you saw today are going to be uploaded after today, obviously. But if you want to check out what happened at the kickoff section for the lower schoolers, you can check them out here. So you have the opening sessions, and then you have the pillars presented by some other different speakers, well, one other speaker. And then the closing session by Daniel Blackman, which is also very good. So I would suggest you guys check that out as well. And then you can go into sort of what's next. So like Courtney said, I think to all of you leaving your sessions, this is not going to be the last contact or the last information you have about climate justice and different topics. So we're going to have speakers come in throughout and upload videos to this platform. So you have to constantly be checking back here. We are going to start uploading them here so that you can hear more about them from different subject matter experts and really start to understand different topics that you might want to explore for your Climate Justice Green Heart Challenge project. If there is something that you would like to learn more about and you actually want to have a direct conversation with a speaker or with someone from CPF or from Clayton County, you can request a session here and make sure you just are being specific about filling out those forms. And specifically, you want to describe what you would like to discuss in this session. This is going to give you access to subject matter experts. So please use this platform wisely. It really is going to give you that support and mentorship that you need throughout this process. You don't have to do it alone. And so we want to make sure that we're giving you all the resources that you need to get this done. It's also going to walk you through design thinking. And so when you're putting together the solutions, and once you've moved forward past the research and information process, you are going to go into the design thinking and looking about how to put together solutions. So this platform is really going to be like your headquarters, if you will, for the Green Heart Challenge. So make sure that you are constantly checking back. Again, it's herofortheplanet.org/Green Heart Challenge. And so this is going to have all of your resources, your information, everything you're going to need for Green Heart Challenge. Today's videos will be uploaded once we have the videos. But obviously we're all here today, so we were super happy to have you. So it seems like we're about to give out some more prizes before we head out of the building. We might have some lucky winners. Let's see who it is.
Okay, so during our lunch session,
Ooh, during lunch.
we asked you guys to do some things with See, Think, Wonder. And so we walked around and looked at what everyone drew. And there was one particular person, and I want to make sure I have the right name.
Look where the one.
I think it was Abdullah Boyd. Abdullah Boyd. Great job.
Give it up, everyone. Do a round of applause.
Okay. And then this particular person did a great job answering questions during our challenge time as well. This person is going to receive 2 tickets to the Botanical Gardens, and we have Ava Time.
Can we get another round of applause, please, for our winners?
Keep in mind, more prizes to come. Not today, but we're going to be paying attention over what you're doing over the next 2 months, and we're just going to surprise you. You get a prize. So remember, the best prizes are the ones you don't expect, right? So just make sure you're using the website. You may be looking at your usage. You may be looking at your requests for certain those one-on-one opportunities. It may be when I walk by your classroom and you're working on your project, and I'm just inspired by what you're doing. Okay? So I have plenty of prizes to give away. I just need you to give them to me. So hopefully it's going to be fun. All right. Thank you all, and we're going to tell you how to dismiss in a second. So we'll just have some music playing, and then we'll get you guys on the bus and get back to school. Thank you, guys.
Great work today. Thank you, everyone.
Yay.